We're going to now give a project overview of what has been done so far with the Healthy Soils Initiative that TreePeople has been conducting, and again with funding by Accelerate Resilience LA, or ARLA. And so it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Yujuan Chen, whose efforts really have made this whole project happen. And so you can, so Yujuan, you can take it from here. And
Thank you, Rich. Can you see my screen?
yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everyone. It is so exciting to hear from our leaders from the state, from the city, and from the region. And thank you all so much. And now we are going to give you a high-level project overview about the Healthy Soil for Healthy Community Initiative, including the main findings from phase 1 and also a plan for phase 2. So to explore the potential of soil in building climate resilience and a healthy community, TreePeople had launched the Healthy Soil for a Healthy Community Initiative in 2019. As the first phase, we conducted a needs assessment with the funding from Accelerate Resilience LA, ARLA, a sponsored project of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisor. Thanks to Andy, Deb, and Jen, thank for with us today. And we work with a variety of partners, including university, government agencies, nonprofit organizations, and community groups. And many of them are here today. So this is a one-year project. And as the first phase, we did a needs assessment, basically to ask 3 main questions. What do we have? What do we need? And how can we get there? So basically to determine the current status of LA soil and also identify both current and long-term urban soil related issues and also community needs, and to provide a framework to move forward to address the needs. To do that, first of all, we did 4 online surveys. We also did a series of focus groups. And we hosted a series of events, including the first Los Angeles Urban Soil Symposium last year. So in collaboration with Dr. Eric Woodman from CSUN, California State University, Northridge, we have developed 4 online surveys in both English and Spanish for residents, educators, policymakers, and also soil-related professionals. In total, we have received 1,349 responses, including about 1,100 from residents. So we have a very rich data set, but with the limited time we have today, I will only highlight some of the main findings. So one question we ask for all 4 groups is, what does healthy soil mean to you? So the top 4 choices include, first of all, plants and trees grow well in the soil. And then the soil contains organic matter and nutrients. There are earthworms and insects in the soil. And the last one is, there are no heavy metals or chemical contaminants. The other question we asked is, are you concerned about soil contamination? So on the left, this is the result from residents and educators. On the right, this is the result from policymakers and soil-related professionals. As you can see, most of them are concerned about soil contamination, especially when you look at the number here. For example, on the right, policy and professionals say, yes, either I'm extremely concerned or very concerned about soil contamination. However, only very low percentages of residents and educators have tested their soil or know the soil on their school campuses have been tested for contaminants. For example, in LA County, only 12% residents self-reported that they have tested their soil. So that means there's a gap because people are concerned about soil contamination, but only very low percentage have tested their soil, know what they have in their soil. Working with Dr. Kirsten's words, who is here with us today from UCLA, we have also had a series of 7 focus groups with key stakeholders, including 41 individuals from community, to assess their perception, needs, and concerns regarding our soil. So we had 3 main groups, and one is technical and policy, and one is landscape and gardening and urban agriculture, and the other one is community and coalition. So for each of them, we did 2 focus groups, and at the end, we brought them together, did a synthesis group. So we did this because we wanted to have an in-depth conversation with our key stakeholders. So this is a quote from a focus group participant. And so I just know that while we continue to have these dialogues and meet at the table to talk about policy, we are on our way to making that change. So even different groups have different needs, interests, and priorities. They're also cross-cutting themes, including a need for accessible and transparent soil data and testing, an effective community engagement and streamlined communication that targets underserved communities, and building alliance among community and policy and science professionals, and also leverage organizations, individuals, agencies already doing the work, including all of you here today. High priorities have been identified by the Census Focus Group, including developing a holistic soil strategy that includes social and ecological dimensions of soil, and also center racial justice in urban soil work, and demonstration projects that address legacy pollution and improve communication strategies for researchers and also communities, and effective engagement that centers communities and emphasizes community leadership with shared power in decision making and resource allocation. So in summary, the top needs of LA soil include an overall strategy, community-based soil testing, effective public education, and community engagement, and demonstration project to showcase potential solutions. So all the results are available online. We have published a project report. We also have an infographic, and we also did Los Angeles Urban Soil Toolkit in both English and Spanish. And recently, we just submitted a peer-reviewed journal article. It's in review now. For more information, you can go to our TreePeople website to learn more. So that's phase 1. And to address the identified needs in phase 1, we have developed an overall framework for phase 2, which proposed to establish an overall strategy for a Los Angeles Urban Soil Collaborative. Under this framework, there are 4 key components, including best management practices, demonstration project, public education, community engagement, capacity building, and strategic planning. So for the best management practices, Dr. Pouyat will share a little bit more later on. For demonstration project, there are 3 main demonstration projects in phase 2, including Urban Carbon Farm, which is going to be the first urban carbon farm in Los Angeles in collaboration with our Compost, Kissa Ground, and Department of Recreation Parks. We are going to have the first urban carbon farm at Griffith Park. A second demonstration project is green, blue, and brown infrastructure, and to explore the connection between trees, water, and soil, working with researcher from UC Riverside, and we are going to have this demonstration at the same time, use it for community engagement and also research. The third one is community-based soil sampling and testing, working with researchers from UCLA. And we are going to address the needs about soil testing and sampling that we have identified from phase 1. So this has been funded by ARLA with the continuous generous support, and we have started this phase from this June, so more to come. And now Rich is going to share a little bit more about best management practices and also the program today.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. So yes, we're focusing today on best management practices, and it occurred to me that perhaps we should come up with a definition so we all can be on the same page. And I did a little research, and so a few decades ago, best management practice was the term was coined to define any acceptable practice to promote soil conservation. And primarily the focus back then was to reduce non-point pollution and to achieve water quality goals that were related to forest management in particular. And that later that was spread to stormwater management practices as well. So water quality, it was the initial focus of BMPs. And so we're obviously stretching that now to urban soils in particular, and so brown infrastructure. And so here's our suggested definition, and we could talk about this later in our discussion periods, but it is a practice or combination of practices that is determined to be an effective and practical means of promoting urban soil health. And basically the connotation here is that it needs to be cost efficient and as simple as possible, while being very effective and environmentally sound. So we want to be able to achieve results, but do it in a very cost efficient manner and simple as possible so that it's easily done throughout the landscape. And so soil health here is in the context of an urban landscape. So ultimately, we want, we're going to try to, we know that soils provide ecosystem services. So in the urban landscape, a lot of those services have been lost. And so the idea here is to bring back those services. And the question I'm also going to put to the group, and we can talk about later, is with apologies to the Biden administration, can we build these soils back better? And so that is what we hope to achieve here today. So an overview of our the rest of our program. We've gone through the opening remarks and project review, and so we're going to have presentations done in two parts. And we broke it up with 4 speakers each. And at the end of each, we're going to give 15-minute presentations. And at the end of that, those presentations, we're going to do a panel discussion that will be facilitated by some professionals from Los Angeles, local folks that are working with soils within the region. And so part 1, you can see all these speakers have their bios listed in the program. And so I'll be introducing them individually as they give their talks. And at the end of the general presentations and the panel discussions, we're going to have a summary given by Michelle Barton and closing remarks by Andy Lipkiss. So if we can go to our next. So some ground rules before we get into the presentations. In Zoom, you could please rename yourself and provide your name and your affiliation, so so folks can know where you're from and who you're representing. Please keep your camera off and stay on mute. The way we're going to deal with questions is have you put the questions in the chat box, and then when we get to the discussion session, after the facilitators give brief presentations, we'll get into a discussion period and we'll throw out those questions. Okay, next slide, please. And I'm going to give this back to Dr. Chen for making acknowledgements.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pouyat. And lastly, I'd like to thank Arla again for their generous support, and also thanks to all the steering committee and the project team members for their contribution and the collaboration. And most importantly, thanks to all the participants in the survey and also focus group, and for your contribution as well. And thank you all, and enjoy the symposium.